In this lesson, we're going to review how to write a body paragraph or a main paragraph in the body of your essay. You'll remember, because this should be review, right, that there are three main parts to a well-written body paragraph. Each paragraph needs a topic sentence, it needs some supporting sentences, and a closing sentence. Closing sentence is in parentheses here because we're going to talk a little more about whether or not you always need one of those a little later in the lesson. Topic sentence, though. In academic writing, usually this is the first sentence in each body paragraph. It does not always have to be, but for school writing, formal writing, the kind of writing we're doing, it typically is. And that's where I recommend you put it for now. The purpose of a topic sentence, of course, is to tell what the rest of the paragraph is going to be about, or in other words, to introduce the main idea of that paragraph. Here are some examples of topic sentences. Fortune hunters encounter many difficulties when exploring a shipwreck. We would expect this paragraph to go on and tell us about a number of those difficulties. Or a second example, cooking requires a number of different skills. Again, I would expect the following sentences to give me examples of the skills that I need in order to be a good cook. After we've written a topic sentence, we're on to the supporting sentences. The purpose of these sentences is to give more information about the main idea or topic of the paragraph. This is done by providing factual details about the topic, describing the topic, or expanding, going into more depth on the subject of the paragraph. Basing off of the topic sentences on the previous slide, here are some example supporting sentences. For the shipwreck paragraph, we might have a sentence in that paragraph, something like, boats may be covered in fishing lines or vegetation that could entangle and trap a diver. This is an example of a danger that might be faced by people exploring shipwrecks. Or, for the cooking paragraph, math skills, for instance, play a key role when recipes need to be doubled or halved. This is expanding on and describing a skill that is needed in order to be a good cook. Finally, we come to the closing sentence. As I hinted earlier on, closing sentences are not always used. I know you've been taught to put them at the end of every paragraph, and when the writing that you are doing is simply one paragraph long, it is a really good habit to be in. It's like writing a conclusion to your paragraph. However, if you put a closing sentence that sums up or restates the topic sentence at the end of every single body paragraph, your paper can begin to sound choppy and immature. So here are some other things. One possibility is simply to leave off a closing sentence, and we'll look at an example of that. Another possibility is to end a paragraph with a sentence that leads into the next paragraph. For example, if we think about the shipwreck paragraph that talks about all sorts of dangers of exploring shipwrecks, we could close that paragraph out with a sentence that says, given all these dangers, it is a wonder anyone chooses to explore shipwreck sites. This hints to the reader that in the next paragraph, we're likely to talk about reasons why it is a cool thing to go and explore shipwrecks, even though it's dangerous. Of course, occasionally it is fine to simply sum up the paragraph in your closing sentence. For example, in the cooking paragraph, where we said there were many skills needed, and then went on in our supporting sentences to name those skills, we could close that paragraph out with something like, people who possess all of these qualities are likely to make good cooks. It's important to note that if your closing sentence is a simple summary of the paragraph that it is closing, you should not use the exact same words that you used in your topic sentence. Now let's look at some examples from the History Alive or Brown History textbook. Example number 1. Follow along as I read this paragraph to you. The delegates' first action was to elect George Washington president of the convention. No man was more admired and respected than the former commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. When the war ended, Washington could have used his power and popularity to make himself a king. Instead, he went home to Virginia to resume his life as an ordinary citizen. But despite his reluctance to return to public life, Washington would play a key role by presiding over the convention. You can see in red here, the topic sentence tells us we're going to go on to talk about George Washington, President of the Constitutional Convention. This paragraph gives us some depth about George Washington, and then does go on to essentially give a closing sentence that restates or sums up the entire paragraph. That's shown in blue. Or example number 2, under the Articles of Confederation, the new nation also had serious money problems. This is a topic sentence, right? We would expect this paragraph to go on to tell us about some of those money problems, and it does. The paper money printed by Congress during the war was worthless. Congress had the power to make coins that would not lose their value. However, it lacked gold or silver to mint into coins. The states reacted to the money shortage by... You can see here that this first paragraph does not have a closing sentence. Instead, it ends with a sentence that hints that something is going to have to be done to solve these problems. And though I don't give you the entire next paragraph, I give you enough of the topic sentence for you to see that that is what the next paragraph will do. So to review, body paragraphs need 3 parts. Sometimes. They always need a topic sentence, they always need detailed supporting sentences, and they sometimes use a closing sentence.